Thank you very much, Don. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores for Monday, February the 10th, 2025. Welcome all members, everyone in the chambers, and everyone watching via the live stream this evening. We're glad everybody's with us. This is our first evening in our newly renovated council chambers, and it really is beautiful. And I think it's functional too. It's got a lot more IT operability than our old one did, which I think is going to make for a good experience for everybody who's watching our council meetings from home. And also the gallery is a lot bigger. And so hopefully it'll be a nice space for folks to engage with council and also for other meetings that get held over time. It's of course occurred as a result of the work we're doing on the Aquatics and Wellness Center. And so it's going to be an integral part of that facility. So anyway, it's a beautiful chambers now, and appreciate the work that everyone has done to bring it about. All right, the second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and the deputy mayor has that.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. I'll just take a moment to mention there is an agenda item later related to the CD project, which will be explained at that time, but a number of us who are members of council and also staff were at the graduation ceremony last Friday. And certainly the artwork, which is the Friendship Accord that was a gift from Saugeen to us, is hanging on the wall at the back of the council chambers. And hopefully when people come in and see it, they'll be very impressed and read the story of the Friendship Accord that I believe is what's on the wall beside it. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Okay, thank you very much. Third item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. No additions, deletions, or amendments. So we're on to minutes, and there is a resolution that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 27, 2025 as presented. Is the mover and seconder, the Vice Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mayette. Questions or comments to that set of minutes? Seeing none then, all in favor? That is carried. All right, so now we are on to 9 reports of municipal officers and committees, and the first one is the 2024 Town of Saugeen Shores Annual Report and the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to be here tonight to present the 2024 annual report to council and the residents of Saugeen Shores. This past year has been a remarkable journey for our municipality, filled with progress and meaningful accomplishments that reflect the dedication of our team and the resilience of our community. This report is an important checkpoint in the cycle of the town's business. I'm very proud to share many of the highlights that we have achieved together, celebrate the milestones we've reached, and provide insight into the work that lays the foundation for a thriving future. You will recall in 2023 that Council developed the strategic plan, providing values and pillars to guide Saugeen Shores into the future. This provided a strong foundation for us when we built and approved the 2024 business plan. The business plan outlined 4 key components: major initiatives that move the municipality forward in line with the strategic plan, division highlights that improve how we serve our residents, capital highlights that build our community, and key performance indicators that establish a baseline in order to measure our future successes. The 2024 business plan had 43 major initiatives, 76 division highlights, and 51 capital highlights. This annual report is a companion piece to that business plan. This report closes out the 2024 business plan items and summarizes what was accomplished throughout the year. As we reflect on the year 2024, it is clear that our town has experienced an incredible journey of growth, progress, and community development. In the strategic plan, it outlined a number of values, and all of our work has been undertaken to advance those values. We put people at the center of our work, internally through our staff growth and development, including our internal brand and culture, Team Saugeen, and externally through initiatives that focus on the needs of our community members, like physician recruitment and the implementation of the Safe to School plan. In 2024, we prioritized transparency by providing the community with clear and accessible information on key initiatives. The Key Performance Indicators dashboard on our website allows residents to track each department's real-time progress and stay informed about ongoing work. Additionally, we engage the public on many projects through our online engagement platforms, Engage Saugeen Shores and Flash Vote. Recognizing service as a core function of municipal government, we implemented efficiency improvements to ensure the right people are in the right places to serve the community effectively. Enhancements such as streamlining the paper billing process, expanding online payments, upgrading software systems, and reviewing bylaws all contribute to a more efficient and responsive government. We have made significant progress in fostering an inclusive community with several 2024 initiatives. We installed menstrual products in public washrooms, upgraded accessibility at the Chantry Center, and introduced the beach wheelchairs on our waterfront. Recognizing our responsibility as stewards of our natural environment, we undertook a tree planting program, a wildflower area pilot program, and we brought back the food cycler program, selling more than 200 units than we did the year before. Our annual tree sale grew to record numbers, and through the development of our urban tree canopy plan, we now have a guide on how we want to protect and manage our urban forests for residents today and for generations to follow. As our values guide us in actions, we also work to ensure that everything we do represents the strategic pillars that council endorsed, and council provided the town with 4 strategic pillars. Pillar 1 was meeting the needs of the growing community. As a community, it is essential that we recognize current and future needs. To promote diversification and growth of the town's housing stock, several updates were made to the official plan and zoning bylaw. These updates allowed for the adoption of inclusionary zoning, which supports the development of various housing types such as triplexes, fourplexes, and additional residential units. This approach has helped to increase housing density and provide more housing options for residents. The town remained committed to maintaining municipal infrastructure while aligning with growth. We replaced and constructed new sidewalks to improve pedestrian accessibility. We utilized CCTV technology to inspect sanitary sewers and updated our asset management plan. Additionally, in 2024, we initiated the review of our levels of service to better understand and align with community expectations with sustainable service delivery. With the goal of promoting business growth and investment, we work closely with the business improvement areas, updating community toolkits and providing general support. We also continued to work on Innovation Park and received an expression of interest to purchase our first lot. Under Pillar 2, building the best municipal team, we continue our mission to attract and retain top quality talent, and we have made recruitment improvements to support a smoother and more informed hiring process. Guided by the Aquatic and Wellness Center staffing plan, we have also begun the recruitment of top candidates to fill the positions for this new facility. As we grow as an organization, we will always continue to focus on our culture of continuous improvement. We continue to complete our annual employee engagement survey to look for opportunities to make our workplace the best place to work and provide corporate training to support ongoing learning and development. Under Pillar 3, building valued relationships, it is essential for a functioning government through civic engagement and communications, and relationships with the community are further developed. There are now more ways to learn about and to give input into many of our municipal initiatives, including our social media platforms, the website, news subscriptions, public information centers, and online engagement tools. This year also marked the 25th anniversary of Saugeen Shores, planned by a committee of staff, council, and community members. The celebrations included the attendance of the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario and without a doubt brought the community together. We have also continued strengthening our relationship with Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, on whose traditional territory we reside. The Community Economic Development Initiative with Saugeen First Nation has grown into an incredible partnership, resulting in recently signed Friendship Accord, which is next on the agenda tonight. We are also working with SON to complete the installation of a newly named I knew I was going to say it wrong. Sorry, the new park name, which is Wasaye, which means dawn of a start of a new day. This will authentically represent Saugeen territory within the town of Port Elgin. Our advocacy work with other levels of government continues with town representatives bringing local issues, concerns, and opportunities to 14 provincial and federal meetings throughout 2024. And the last pillar, fostering a vibrant place to live and visit. This is certainly an exciting time to live and visit Saugeen Shores as our local arts, culture, and recreation offerings continue to grow. The Aquatic and Wellness Center construction is well underway, and as the mayor mentioned tonight, we are sitting in our renovated council chambers, which offers us a sneak peek of what the future facility will be like. The phase 2 of Lamont Sports Park is also complete, and we stand to become, through these two pieces, a recreational hub for the area. The public art policy adopted by council will direct the integration of artwork on municipally owned property, creating more vibrant spaces for the community to enjoy. And as an inclusive community, we strive to ensure all new residents feel welcome and included. This year, we hosted community connector events at the Port Elgin Library, and we included cultural elements in the 25th anniversary. As an employer, we have expanded our inclusion statements and job postings and added diversity, equity, inclusion training to all new staff orientation. Of course, one of the most important reasons we all live and play in Saugeen Shores is its natural beauty. And after the storm damage of the North Shore Trail, the multi-use path, we were excited to reopen that pathway fully this spring. Phase 1 of the North Shore Park Master Plan began this fall, focusing on rehabilitation and preparation of the area to create a park for generations to come. The plan will guide the future of the park over the next 10 years. These initiatives, along with tree planting and wildflower areas that I've already mentioned, are some of the ways we are looking to enhance and preserve our natural environment. As I reflect on all of these initiatives I just mentioned, I'm filled with great pride at the work that we do at the town of Saugeen Shores, especially knowing that those mentioned were just a few of the many highlights of work completed in 2024. With the support of council, staff worked hard to move forward the 2024 business plan, and I encourage everyone to take a look through the annual report for a complete snapshot of those initiatives. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to Team Saugeen. Everyone has contributed to making 2024 a year to remember. That includes council, staff, and the public. Your hard work, passion, and dedication have been a driving force behind the town's achievements, and together we are building a stronger, more vibrant Saugeen Shores. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So there is a resolution. The council received the 2024 Town of Saugeen Shores Annual Report for information. Is there a mover and seconder for that resolution? Councilor Grace and the Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments from members? We'll start with the Vice Deputy Mayor and we'll work our way around from there. Well, Vice Deputy Mayor. Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt. Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry. I was hearing Deputy Mayor. I missed the Vice Deputy. Sorry.
No worries.
I just wanted to say thank you, Kara. When I was reviewing the report, it's just really quite amazing. Just made a couple notes here, just members of the public to realize what, we all know this as a council with Team Saugeen and the people power we have and the job that our staff do. And it's really remarkable. I just made a few notes here, but 58,200 pool visits. I remember it wasn't that long ago, we had 20,000 people going through the pool, 10, 15 years ago, and now we're up to 58,000. So it's a big number. 3,164 Zamboni trips around the ice surface, 2,284 hours of ball games. The IT department, I have 1,000 help desk tickets supported, 450 mobile and workstation devices. Our clerk's office, over 100 licenses issued. Finance department, 8,200 water billing accounts. Development services, 1,921 inspections completed. Engineering department, 3,418 meters of roads replaced or repaired. Fire services, 1,830 hours of training for volunteer fire department. Public works, 125 new sidewalk panels and wonderful winter snow plowing services. And I just want to read those out to the public because it's really quite incredible what our staff do day in and day out to make things happen and to help things operate the way they do here in Saugeen Shores. Our staff are really remarkable people and do a tremendous job. So I just wanted to thank our staff and it was really well laid out, Kara. I thought it was an excellent report, good reading, and I recommend members of the public, take a look at this report because it really gives you a good snapshot of what's happening here in Saugeen Shores on a day-to-day basis. And a tremendous amount of work being carried out by our 100 or 150 staff, I don't know we have. But I just want to congratulate you for the report and thank you, and thank all of our staff for a great job in 2024.
Thank you very much. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I could just echo Mike's comments, and I really wanted to take an opportunity to thank staff for your efforts, very successful efforts in community engagement, public consultation, and seeking public input. And they've done a very good job on that. And I'd like to mention some of the projects where that's happened at North Shore Park, at Hollywell Park, Jubilee Park, the Cottage Street Studies, High Street revitalization, the Aquatic and Wellness Center programming, just to mention a few. So thank you, staff. You've really done an exceptional job at those important things of engaging the public, getting public opinion, public feedback. And thank you so much for that. Well done.
Thank you. I'll get the Councillor Grace and then the Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is, you know, a report to be very, very proud of and very thankful for all of the efforts of our staff. I must say before I go on, just thank you so much to our Public Works Department for the winter control. It's just been brutal this year. From I can't even imagine what you guys are going through. So thank you very much. Please pass that on. A couple of things I wanted to also mention, just the beach and water wheelchairs this year. Our staff work on that, the accessibility committee that's worked on that for a long time, and I believe that was a donation of Southampton Rotary. So that's just one example of our public, members of the public who also work to help with some of these initiatives like the wildflower pilot program. And then for our staff, the tree planting, I had to look this word up, caliper trees. I didn't know what that was, but I understand they're mature, fairly mature trees. So that's good, 160 of those at Nodwell, Lamont, Summerside, Snyder, and both tourist camps. And at the Port Elgin Cemetery, 10 mature trees, and then at the tree planting at the North Shore Park. I do have two questions, if I may. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, especially since Darren may be around somewhere. I noticed this statistic on page 28, the number of total cyber attacks and threats detected. We had an increase from 216 in 2023 to 742 in 2024, and 100% of those attacks were blocked. So that's terrific. Two questions, if I may, for the Director of Community Services and Recreation. Thanks, Kristen. The first is about the tourist camp strategic assessment on page 15. Could you just outline, I know there's been some chatter and social media about what that entails. What are we going to be doing there, or what are we doing?
Thank you, and thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So it was an approved 2024 project that unfortunately we didn't get complete in 24, so we anticipate completing that early this year. So the objectives of the assessment include recommendations to the approach of operating and management of the camps, revenue opportunities, the optimum hours and staff complement for the business, trends in seasonal camping business, future capital investments and related costs, because noted in the future year capital plan for both tourist camps is an incredible investment for infrastructure improvements, water and sewer and electrical as well, to happen in 26 to 28. And then a cost analysis, capital cost versus potential revenue as well of additional sites if Lakeview Ball Diamond is deemed surplus, and we added more sites to that as well. So it's kind of looking at the whole business as a unit.
Thank you. I think that's a really smart idea. I mean, traditionally, as long as I've been on council, our tourist camps have been a really valuable part of our revenue. And I know they're also cherished places for people to be able to summer. So thank you. I think that's a great idea. My other question is about the South Street Beach access enhancements. It was described. I just wanted to know, because I thought there was a portable washroom being added, and what's happening with that?
Sure, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So each year, we order 15 to 20 portable washroom units from the spring to the fall. And so South Street Beach is one of those, and that will be placed back again seasonally down there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have the deputy mayor next and then Counselor Davinsky.
I'll take advantage of the director to stay there for a minute. I wasn't going to ask this question, but since Counselor Grace brought up about the South Street access, I've had a lot of questions about how it's supposed to work going forward, because it seems like an odd arrangement for parking. Could you give us sort of a sense of, because it would appear as though when it's hard to imagine pulling in straight towards the lake and then angling off to park, because any way that you're backing out of a space there, it's almost like you're backing right into an intersection. I'm sure somebody smarter than me knows how this is supposed to work and how we will delineate parking spaces there. I apologize for not asking you in advance. I know you're not prepared for the question, but do you have a sense of how it will work going forward? Because it looks odd to some people, and I would be included in that category.
Sure, and thanks for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So it was a previously approved project, and staff took advantage of the good weather, November, December, in order to complete that project. When it was first presented to council for approval, the idea was to eliminate all the parking down there. And those of us that are familiar with the area, sometimes you can get 8 cars, 10 cars, depending, but it's unsafe, in particular with pedestrian traffic and beachgoers down there. So when it was originally pitched, we were going to remove all of the space and treat it as a drop-off zone, put the boulders or the barriers up to eliminate people from parking. We would have a gate because maintenance vehicles go through there, an in-ground garbage container, and then the portable washroom as well. And so after looking at the plans, our parks manager and supervisor came up with a plan to keep 4 parking spots down there, which is great. So that's better than eliminating all of them. And then we'll have bike racks, in-ground garbage container, and all of the other amenities as well.
Thank you. So there's no sense that people parking there, in order to get out of those parking spaces, they're going to have to back right into the intersection. There's something that makes it possible for 4 parking spaces to be there safely.
That's correct.
And I was asked, are they all going to be accessibly signed parking spaces or just regular parking spaces?
I can't answer that right now, but I'll get back to you with that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for staying up there. My comment, other people have said lots of tidbits from the report. I just wanted to ask specifically, I know that a digital copy will be on the website. If a member of the public wants a print copy, how should they request that? Should they, who are they going to call to get that print copy if they want one? Thank you.
The CAO.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think if they reach out to our clerk's department, we can make sure they get a printed copy. Thank you for the question.
Okay, Counselor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, first of all to Karen, first of all to everybody. This is a dynamic place to meet. You've got to come out here, even if you don't have any business. You just have to come out here and see the new town chambers. Secondly, through you to Kara, your report that you read, are you going to share that on the website? Because it's an all-encompassing report and I think should be available to our constituents.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's my speaking notes, but I'd be happy to look at through communications, turning that into something that could be a summary for people. Sure.
Thank you. You're right. There has to be a couple of changes through the thing, but I think it's very well done. And if people take the time to read it, it gives them a good overview. I would like to think that the constituents or the citizens, not constituents, citizens would read every report that has been uh, developed by our team leaders here. Bit of a read, but I'll tell you, you sure get a lot of information on that. And I want to congratulate everyone who took part in that. If I may, because most of my questions have been answered, and I don't need an answer here from Kristen, 'cause she didn't even know I was going to say this. We talked about the South Street Beach parking. And we've changed it in such a way that I think it's going to be a bit of a bottleneck, but we'll deal with that in the summertime. Can we go back? And I don't even know if you're the right person. Can we go back to having parking on Huron Street? We arbitrarily took it away a long time ago on the north side of Huron around the curve. And so, and they said it was for safety, and I've never seen an issue there anyway. I just throw that out. Can that parking come back and help relieve what we have? Just
So-
a thought.
Yeah, so we are talking about the annual report here, so I think maybe the thing to do for
Okay.
tonight is to try, Counselor, wait, the director has heard the request, and maybe we can get back to you and council with with a detailed answer on that, because it's a little bit beyond the scope of the conversation right at the moment, but we can get it, I'm sure they'll give you an answer.
And thank you so much for your help. I'm very much aware that we're talking about the annual report.
Yeah.
Came up, I've put it out there. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Counselor Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, most of what I've been thinking has already been said. I found the report very readable, very concise, lots of good information, and I look forward to being able to refer to it as the year goes on, as the highlights and the things to come. A question for Kara is, why were you not able to get the mayor to put a report in there, a message from the mayor? Was he just late getting it in?
That was probably a rhetorical question. The CAO managed it for this report. She took care of it. I'm off the hook this time. I think the Vice Deputy Mayor has a question or
Yeah,
comment.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to Director Community Services, Kristen Schreids, just to follow up page 34, one last question I had was about Cameron Park and Beaner Park needs assessment. It says that the work will be incorporated into the Recreation Master Plan update. Does this mean, Schreids, that the consultants for the Recreation Master Plan will be carrying out that work in terms of the needs assessment for Cameron and Beaner? Will they be carrying out that work? Schreids, is that the idea?
Thank you for the question. And I think what I'll do is I'll confer with Mark and Jay on this, and then I'll get back to you with that answer.
Okay, thanks. I would appreciate an email on that. I'm just curious who was carrying it out. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Counselor Dwinsky?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a question. Are we going to hear from the rest of the department heads or no?
No, I think that's the extent of the report. If you have further questions.
Oh, I
then-
do.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Okay,
Dwinsky.
thank you. I just have to find them. I'm sorry for this. Naturally, they jump out at you when you don't have to use them, but. Okay, so this one would go to, well, I sent to Matt Prentice and Kara and Pete Nechtel. And Matt, we were talking about the terminology through you, Mr. Mayor. We were talking about the terminology that is being used when we talk about various vehicles that we are purchasing and so on, I wonder if you could, for the citizens, just simplify that for us. What,
Oh, your mic went off there. There you go. Your mic's gone off again there, Matt. Oh, is it? Oh, no, I don't know. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Hey, Matt, I think I got this guy, I saw Mike put his hand to his ear there. He can't hear you. Maybe it would be good for tonight if the directors would go to that center podium to answer the questions, because something's up with those mics there, I think.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. There's no sound here.
Yeah, we have an issue, but we'll get her fixed. The director.
For you, your worship, so Councillor Davinsky, you asked about the letters A to D that are used on the fleet classification system if we're replacing an element of the fleet. So for instance, sidewalk plow 32D was replaced in 2024, and the A, B, C, and D are designations of what class of equipment it is. So A are light trucks, B is 1 tons, C are single axles or tandem trucks, and D are loaders, backhoes, sidewalk plows, and some other smaller equipment.
thank you for that, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have an issue with this, but some people have been saying, how come the town, Port Elgin, is getting a sidewalk plow 32D brand new right now, and Southampton is waiting for that second, I guess, sidewalk snowplow. And I just wonder how this plays out. Thank you.
It's a question of the actual items you're talking about, the timing of the delivery. So 32D was the sidewalk plow that was replaced for Port Elgin in 2024. The 2025 business plan includes a new sidewalk plow for Southampton additional to the fleet, whereas that previous one was just a replacement of an existing sidewalk plow. The timing as well is significant in that in May of 2024, we received the new sidewalk plow. In October 2024, we, by that time, had traded in the old one, the 32D. And then in October 2024 is when I brought forward the proposal to carry the new Southampton sidewalk plow as a high priority in the 2025 business plan. And ultimately, that was included in the 2025 business plan. So it's the timing of these two different pieces of equipment and the issues around them.
Thank you for that, sir. It's not as if we're being left out. It's, I just wanted to clear that up. May I continue? Okay. Thank you. I guess my next questions go to Jay Posner. And it's the business plan revisions. We had questions in the Affordable Housing CIP. It states the Tax Increment Financing Act might be used to enhance a project. Is this going to end up costing us money? Much like giving up some development charges for certain projects, which may have been legitimate, but it did cost us money. I'm wondering if this is the same.
Councilor Dubinsky, is that in the business plan report? Or are you referring to the development services 9.3, that report?
9.3 and 9.4.
Okay, so we're coming up to that later. We'll finish the business plan discussion here and then we'll come up to that one next, okay?
And here I was so excited.
We'll get you the answer to that question. But Jay's gonna get, he gets 10 minutes to work on his answer now. All right. Are there
My
further-
apologies.
No worries. Do you have any further questions, Councilor Davinsky, or? No, okay. All right, if there's nothing further, I just, and it's already been said, but I'll say it for myself. It's a great report, really well done. And one thing we heard from staff through some of the work that the CAO and others have done is that one thing we don't do or haven't done very well is highlight the sort of day-to-day work that staff do, you know, those things that we sit in here and talk about the big things we're gonna do next year, the Aquatics and Wellness Center, all the new projects, but we rarely go back and talk about, you know, the 10,000 invoices that were processed by the accounts payable department, right? I mean, that's big work. And if the bills don't get paid, the place shuts down. So, I mean, that's just the routine stuff or the 1,830 hours of the training that the volunteer firefighters did, right? You know, what those men and women and our volunteer firefighters, they don't train, you know, people get hurt, right? And they're doing it, huge amounts of training, right? And that's just day-to-day, 55 marriage licenses. And congratulations to all 55 of those couples, right? But you know, that's a fair bit of work, you know, that folks are doing in the clerk's department, issuing those marriage licenses. And that's just the kind of thing that makes life happen in Saugeen Shores, right? And the kind of thing that kind of just latently goes unrecognized and unnoticed because it just happens efficiently and gets done. And those people are doing that work, and it's awesome work. So, and this report does such a great job of drawing those things out and highlighting them and pointing them out and making sure that work that those people at every level in this organization are doing so well every day. And the only other one stats I wanted to draw out, and they haven't been yet, so I just want to point them out, is the 320 building permits we issued, 295 residential units created. And 20 households were receiving the municipal rent subsidy last year. We added another 75,000 to that for 2025, so that'll bring it up to 30 plus the county, so around 40 households receiving municipal rent subsidies now in the town of Saugeen Shores as of 2025. So, you know, we're building a lot of residential units, and we're subsidizing rents so people can live in them. And that's just keeps expanding, and we're going further and faster on that every day. So I think that's a really just an important one to highlight in terms of housing, because I know it's such an important issue to everyone here and everyone in the community. But anyway, it was a great report, and I really appreciate all the work that you folks, the CAO and all the staff and all the management have done to put it together. It's a great way to sort of be real. I'm glad we're doing these annual reports. It's not something we've done very long, but it's a great way to show the community just what their municipal government does. Councilor Davinsky?
Sorry, I may have one more here.
Go ahead.
Let me know if it doesn't, it's not in the annual, but I think it is. And I addressed this to our fire chief, Ed Mellinson. And Ed, I noticed, thank you for the report. But I noticed in the annual report that the percentage of residential smoke alarm and CO2 compliance is down, not down very much, but it's down 5% in 2024 compared to 2023. Are you concerned about this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor. Not really. I think that our reported numbers are actually higher than they actually are. As we gain data, as our public education team does a door-to-door smoke alarm program, we're starting to see some better numbers coming in about what the realities are. I really think that the provincial average is generally pretty low on working smoke alarms in homes. And I'd like to think that Saugeen Shores is much better than that, but I think that 70% compliance is a little high. So I expect that we'll see it to start to trend down a little bit year over year as we do more door-to-door smoke alarm campaigns, because people have to answer the door, right? We knock, they know we're coming, but some don't answer. For every 4 homes that we knock on the door, 1 opens the door to let us in. So as an example, so we'll get there, and the data will get better. And as our messaging gets better, it will get better.
One more question through you, Mr. Mayor. I looked at the repair downtime of equipment, and the 2024 number is 2,136 hours, which is large in comparison to, I guess, 2023. Why is it so large, and does it affect our safety as far as firefighting goes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's a great question, Councillor. What we're trying to do is keep track of all aspects which would show our readiness to respond. So we kept track of every piece of apparatus, fire-related apparatus, and how long it was out of service and the number of times it was out of service. So that number, not only does it show, when we're doing safeties, and last year in 2024, there was a legislative change that saw safeties greatly extended in time. So we went from what would be an average of a safety on a vehicle to be a day, day and a half, to now 3.5 days. So not only does that 2,100 hours reflect, repair state, but it also when they're out of service for what would be called, their required legislative safeties. The biggest issue was a shared tanker. We share 2 tankers with Public Works and the fire department. The process works very well, or has worked well in the past. One of the tankers had some trouble this past year with its emissions, which, although everyone worked very hard on it, was a bit of a struggle. We've had meetings with our Public Works people, with the director, Matt Prentice, ourselves, on how we're going to be able to work around this. There is a plan, and we will move forward, but between extended inspection times and this downtime of this one tanker, that's the majority of those hours.
Okay, thank you. And just to satisfy those listening in, we are still safe with the top-notch firefighting coverage in the municipality.
Absolutely, more than we could ever imagine.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your patience.
Of course. All right, so if there's nothing further, you've heard the recommendation. It's been moved and seconded, so I'll ask all in favor. It's carried. All right, so now we're on to item 9.2, which is the SETI program progress and graduation report, and that's going to be delivered by the Manager of Strategic Initiatives.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to share an update on the progress made by the Community Economic Development Initiative, SETI. This initiative, supported by the Council for the Advancement of Native Development Officers, CANDO, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, has established a strong partnership between the town of Saugeen Shores and Saugeen First Nation. The SETI program is built on a foundation of cooperation, guided by the principles of cooperation, trust, respect, and shared benefits. This work has largely been driven by an incredible working group, which includes, representing the town, Mayor Luc Charbonneau, CAO Cara Van Mile, Economic Development Officer Heather Hyde, Acting Economic Development Officer Evan Batry, myself, and representing Saugeen First Nation, Councillor Randall Coggy, Councillor Rochelle Ritchie, Councillor Cherie Ursula, Band Administrator Jerry Glover, Economic Development Officer Brad Ritchie, and Saugeen First Nations Independent Business Association Coordinator Brittany Root. Through the SETI program, we have accomplished several key milestones together, including establishing a strong foundation of trust and mutual respect between municipal and First Nation leaders, hosted the first ever joint council meeting to identify shared priorities and opportunities, collaborating on various initiatives, including tourism, small business development, and environmental stewardship, continuously share knowledge, resources, and ideas to enhance our region's economic and cultural vitality, and finally, the most significant achievement, already mentioned twice tonight, the official signing of the Friendship Accord on January 31st. And this accord demonstrates a shared dedication to collaborating on economic development initiatives, concentrating on specific action-oriented goals outlined within the economic development focused areas or pillars. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few comments I'm going to just read myself in follow-up to the report. So on January 31st, we celebrated an incredible milestone in the relationship between Saugeen Shores and Saugeen First Nation. The signing of the Friendship Accord is a testament to our shared commitment to collaboration, reconciliation, and building a brighter future together. On behalf of Saugeen Shores, I want to express our deep gratitude for the symbolic artwork presented to us by the Saugeen First Nation, which is now hung proudly at the back of our council chambers. This beautiful piece depicts our two communities working together in partnership for the betterment of both the nation and the town's communities. This artwork proudly hangs on the far wall. It stands as a constant reminder of our shared values and the progress we've made together and will continue to make in the future. Thank you to everyone who has played a part in strengthening this partnership. Together, we are creating a legacy of cooperation and shared success that will benefit generations to come. There's a resolution that Council received the SETI program progress and graduation report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? The Deputy Mayor and Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, I just want to acknowledge that Jill was incredible throughout the process so far, and I'm sure she'll continue to be involved. This is really a relationship building exercise, and I really feel confident that we've moved forward with that. And I say that based on how much I look forward to the next joint meeting, but knowing that on Friday, when we were there for the graduation ceremony and the signing of the accord, conversations were flowing, which were the direct result of the previous time that we got together. And it was, what are you doing? What are you working on? What do you care about? And it was genuine sharing of what's going on in both communities. And I really respect the role that you played in all of that. And I was happy at times when the mayor was unavailable to participate in the working group. That was an amazing process to kind of bring all those people together and have a path forward. And when you read the report, it gets down to the nitty gritty of maybe what's coming next. And it was interesting that there was some real significant agreement between both communities about priorities. And it, in many ways, is about the water and our position on the lakefront. And so I look forward to that. And also the interest in youth activities and the park situation. So thank you, Jill, for your work on this. But I think we've really, it's going to take a long time, of course. That's the nature of our reconciliation activities. But the relationship building, I think we've made some progress. So very much appreciate that and respect your role in all of that.
Yes, thank you. Further questions or comments from members? I don't see any. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. And thanks for your report, Jill. All right. So now we're on to 9.3, development services. Oh, sorry. The Vice Deputy Mayor has his hand raised. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to make a suggestion, and I'm obviously zooming in, and I just want to be helpful. The people at the fellow council members, I can hear you quite well. From the podium, it's really, really difficult to hear people speaking from the podium. You can hear, but it's very faint. What I suggest, if I could, is just push that microphone up to people's mouths, maybe a few inches from when they're speaking, because it's really difficult to hear. So just thought I'd share.
Thanks for that. I'm sure if you're experiencing it, everybody who's watching is. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
If you notice any other glitches, make sure to
Yeah.
chime in so that we can fix them.
Yeah, I see Jay moved it closer, so this should be better.
Jay's already working on it. He took your input immediately. Okay, so now we're on to 9.3, which is Development Services 2025 Business Plan Amendment and the Manager of Planning and Development.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And if I may just indulge for a moment, a quick moment of gratitude. I got stuck in the ditch on the way to this meeting, and I want to thank Dave Souza and Lucas Heathers, and hope they are not embarrassed by me mentioning, but I wanted to thank them. They were just happily on their way home and were able to dig me out. So hope that's not a sign of anything here, but so here with a report to revise, request revisions to the 2025 business plan, highlighting two sort of subject matters. One is housing, and the second is support for community groups. On housing, we were awarded a grant from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation called the Housing Accelerator Fund. It would support improvements, long-term sustainable systemic changes to programs and planning processes that would facilitate the construction of more affordable and attainable housing. The grant funding or the sort of the initiatives outlined here are just the start of them that would be, several initiatives over 2 years. So the first 5 here, and then remaining 3 brought forward just during normal business plan deliberations. So the first is the community planning permit system. It was already in the business plan. We're now asking, just to be clear, like there is supplementary work to be done in the form of a nodes and corridors study, which also was identified in the business plan, but as a future year. We'd like to, we're going to complete that this year. All of these projects, by the way, are funded by the grant. There's no impact to the tax base. It's just, it's part of our discussion and wanting to make sure council's aware. Second is Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan. This will include a review of our CIP. Yes, we did an update, but this will be a little more refined and will include exploration and potential implementation of what is called the Tax Increment Financing Act. It's never before been implemented in Ontario, and we'd like to explore that. The next initiative is inclusionary zoning and innovative planning tools. As CAO mentioned during the annual report, we've already enabled those policies in our official plan, but this would be further and mainly advocacy with the province because it is not a tool that is enabled without their permission. The next initiatives are the additional residential unit toolkit and standardized modular housing program. We're excited because our friends at Bruce Power also supported this initiative and gave a grant. And what this means is, or what this would be is the development of essentially a catalog of designs which we would like to make public domain. So anybody who wishes to build a additional residential unit or tiny home on their property would be able to have access to these designs and would find the sort of the catalog, the Sears catalog of housing design, be able to show up at the building department and get a building permit without any further fuss. I hope I'm making it sound not too difficult. And then the final is to improve our nonprofit housing partnerships with folks at, say, for example, Bruce Power, Habitat for Humanity, or other housing providers. And we'd like to sort of standardize that process so it's easy for both the town and for those housing providers. We don't have to reinvent the wheel each year. The next major subject area is the community group support. And these were identified during business plan discussions earlier, well, like last year, to assist Pumpkin Fest, Sparks, and the Southampton Arts Center with, just with their work, and hopefully that they come forward with long-term proposals to council for if they need support from the town, find proper locations for their activities, and to provide sort of like just a proper business plan, operating plan for those organizations. So there's the report.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that council amend the 2025 Town of Saugeen Shores business plan and budget in accordance with the initiatives outlined in this report. Is there a mover and seconder? The Deputy Mayor and Councillor Halpin. Questions or comments? The Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Halpin, and we'll go to the Vice Deputy Mayor after that.
Thank you. I want to ask two first that are about the housing category, and I'll reserve a comment and a question about the community group support until after everyone has a chance to ask about the housing stuff. Jay, I know how excited you are about the community planning permit situation. You're almost giddy when you start talking about it. I wanted to ask you though, there was some uptake instantly from the community and from the public when the announcement about the $3.9 million from the federal government, but people were like, what is this? Are you able to just very succinctly say what the benefit is of having a community permit, a planning permit situation? And also, are you able to just give a very specific example? I know there's going to be lots, but we have so many different permit situations and planning situations that I think people don't really understand what this is. So, and I know how excited you are about it. That's question number one. And, you know, part of the concern is, you know, you're saying in this report that it's another $70,000 on top of the $150,000 that was in a budget. That's $250,000 for a community planning permit situation. Where's the benefit, and can you give an example? My other comment related to that is on, in somewhere in this report, I'll let you answer that one first. Thank you.
Manager.
Yeah, well, the community planning permit system, or I mean, the acronym's terrible, but CPPS is essentially a readjustment of how traditionally planning is done in Ontario. You know, currently we have a zoning bylaw and we have site plans and we have committees of adjustment, and we have to be very particular about how buildings can be placed on property or what you can use your property for. The permit system combines those into a single process. So you do the planning up front. So someone wants to do, I'll try to think of a good example. I should have been more prepared for that. But say they want to build, you know, a 5-unit townhouse on the property. Right now, they'd have to amend the zoning bylaw. They'd have to have a public meeting. They'd have to make a decision, and they aren't guaranteed that decision knowing the outcome. They don't know the outcome of that process. With the permit system, they would know upfront what the outcome is. The permit system would outline if you want to do certain things on your property, like say a 5-unit townhouse, this is what you have to do to achieve that. And the decision or the outcome is guaranteed. So it removes that risk for builders, homeowners, but it also allows the community to develop their needs and wants into the bylaw, in the system rather, at the upfront stage rather than through a decision-making process from council. So that's, you know, that's my explanation.
So there's still a program there, and to use your own terminology, it just removes some of the fuss.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I guess is like you know, that they're asking this question to you. I think it also means that part of our implementation is to educate, inform, and not just, you know, push forward. Is certainly a big component of all these initiatives to educate and inform the community before they come to council for further consideration.
Okay, I have two more. In the section that's about additional residential units and the modular design package, the dollar value allocated to this is $90,000, which I think it's mostly for designing and having materials available. I just was asked a question by a member of the public. The nonprofit partnership dollar figure is $37,000, and then they wondered why there was such a large amount required to basically, as you know, it appears to drop some plans. So what else is in this ARU modular build $90,000 situation? What can we expect from that? Because it sounds very exciting.
Well, you're correct. It is mainly design work. So architects are not inexpensive. But we also want to have a range of options available and not just say one. You know, if you can imagine a Sears catalog, it isn't just one, you know, metal car toy that you can get. There's a range of them. And in this case, we'd like to be able to have a range of single bedroom tiny homes that are designed by this architect and are made available by the town. If maybe there's a 2-bedroom option, maybe there's an option that is, attached to a garage. And so that we want these options to be made available. And so that because we want to do more than, you know, maybe even 5, I guess I didn't put a number. We'd like to get as many as we can, and with the grant from Bruce Power, it essentially doubled what we had originally asked. So from CMHC, it was only about a $40,000 project. Well, Bruce Power provided their own grant, and we were able to do more design work for $90,000. In the case, by comparison, in that the housing partnership isn't money that would be going to a builder or a housing provider, is to help provide the legal framework so that we can have a path forward for these in every case that works for the town. So.
Well, I hope we get to a place where we have plans that have a nice price tag to build. So thank you for that response. My last question, item 5, the nonprofit housing partnership section. I just wondered, this expression, I didn't know what it meant, so I want to ask you. It says, creative and solidification of long-lasting relationships with nonprofits. The town can develop systemic changes that will integrate new strategies and best practices to nurture these evergreen partnerships.
Mhm.
What is an evergreen partnership?
Well, maybe I'm being too cute with the language. It's just, and that was, you tried to, there to persuade CMHC and and the housing minister, but I think it's just to, so that they're long lasting and that we can use them beyond 2025. So we'd have a framework for partnership in 2028, just as valid as what it is today.
Well, now I think it's very clever, so thank you for that. I will just suggest that a lot of people don't know what a Sears catalog is anymore,
Oh,
so.
no.
Maybe
That's
may-
how old I
maybe-
am.
Maybe
Yeah.
use Wayfair or something.
I used to deliver Sears
At least
catalogs,
at
Mayor.
least he didn't reference the Eaton's catalog.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Counselor Halpin and then the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. This is good news that we've received this money. So I just added up what you listed there, and that's 422,000 that we're spending right off the hop of this money. And so with is it 3.2 or 3.9 million that we,
3.2 million.
3.2, okay. So, so that leaves us quite a bit of money that we can spend yet on this. Will we be spending money on bricks and mortar sort of thing? Will we be spending money on tangible things that the taxpayer can, that people can see what we've done, what we've built?
Well,
Thank you.
the goal of the fund is to provide systemic opportunities for systemic change, to make changes to the processes. So we're looking at permit system, tax increment financing, looking at the tools the municipalities have that can facilitate the construction of housing. It's not intended for direct investment, though we know that other communities do that. So what I'd like to highlight, just, as it's stated in the report, our future year business planning will provide an opportunity for council to sort of examine the other expenditures, and if there is support from CMHC and the funding agents, we can explore whatever facilitates the goal of the fund, which is to accelerate the housing, construction of housing and changes to the systems that make it easier to build houses.
Okay, through you, Mayor. So it says right in there, we can use money for partnerships with nonprofits and groups like that. So certainly we have an ability to, make future, work with groups to provide housing. And correct me if I'm not wrong, some municipalities actually use that accelerator money to give people money for down payments towards their house, right? I did read
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, yes, I referred to, I can't recall the community, but certainly we're aware of communities that have used it. They, they got permission from CMH to do that. We have particular numbers to achieve to get access to further tranches of funding. So right now they give us the first tranche to be able to do our work up front. And when we report to CMHC, have we met our targets and goals? Well, then we can continue to spend, or we get more money to help invest in the programs and systems. If that includes investing directly in partnerships with, because we have targets to meet for affordable housing, number of affordable housing units built over the next several years. If that helps with that target, we'll have that discussion with CMHC. So.
Right. I appreciate the value of all the things listed there. And I know that the idea is to make things work better, but I think the public would like to see some bricks and mortar, would like to see some actual things rather than getting just, I'm just saying that this is a bit of feedback I got from people. Well, we're getting money for one bureaucracy just to spend in another bureaucracy. And how is that going to make more housing? I did explain about how the community permit planning system works and to make things easier but I'm just really hoping that with this next funding that comes in, we can use it so that at the end of the day, we can say, yeah, here's affordable housing. Here's affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor, and then
Yeah.
Councillor Grace, and then Councillor Stack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Jay, I just want to congratulate you again on the $3.2 million for the Housing Accelerator Fund. I think it's great news and amending the business plan, to include those 5 categories that you're including surrounding housing is really a positive step for Saugeen Shores. And I did have a few, I just want to build on Councillor Halpin's comments, and I do agree with them, and I hear this feedback from the public as well. We're doing great with the $225,000 in rental subsidies. We're helping 35 families. We're trying to do our part. We have about 800 people on the application wait list with Bruce County Housing application wait list from here in Saugeen Shores, which is 800 too many. I think it's between 6 and 800. So that's 6 to 800 too many on the application wait list. We're getting there, and as we build new apartment units, the cost of rents hopefully will come down. But I did want to build on just what Councillor Halpin was saying, and it's just about the bricks and mortar, Jay, and I think we can talk about, because this is a housing discussion here. The RFP for Blue Water Lands, we're looking at affordable attainable housing, and this next to the YD Care Center lands. Where are we at, Jay, with that RFP? To help speed up the bricks and mortar question that Councillor Halpin talked about. Where are we at with the Blue Water Lands and the archaeological assessment? And I understand that was what held it up. Are we getting any closer to sending out that RFP for that 7-acre parcel of land for housing?
Well, I mean, certainly, we will bring forward a report to council about how to navigate the Blue Water Lands when I can, and I'll leave my answer at that, so.
But Jay, do you know when that report though for the Blue Water Lands, can you be a little more specific in terms of when you think that RFP will be coming to council for that 7-acre parcel?
I can't be more specific. We have in our business plan already, there's a item for, I think it's a major initiative of the development services, looking at our surplus assets, and we will have a few other things we want to get off our plate right away. But it'll be something it's certainly of a great personal interest for me, so I want to get going on it as soon as I can, but I can't provide a more specific time right now.
Okay. I think the 3.2 million is great. I'm a little concerned that we get, planning's important, so important. And, but the Attainable Housing Task Force was 4 years old now, 25 recommendations, and a little concerned we're going to get bogged down with more reports, important ones from a planning perspective. But I guess my question is, how much more of a delay are we going to look at with Blue Water Lands and a Habitat for Humanity build here in Saugeen Shores with the 3 Sheets property potentially? Memorandum of understanding, I think, is in the hands of staff. Do you know when that memorandum of understanding may come back to council?
I'm not sure what's been reported on that project yet, but certainly when council identified the property behind the Jehovah's Witness on concession 10, we'll be bringing a report when we can on what is to be done for that.
Hey, Jay, do you know when that report for the 3 Sheets property would be coming to council though for discussion for Habitat for Humanity? And I'm sorry to be so persistent, Jay, but we've talked, for quite some time about those 2 pieces of property, and I know staff are busy. I get that. I understand that.
I think,
I do get it, but I just want to
I
know
think,
when.
Vice Deputy Mayor, we're going to have to, we can't discuss that matter any further
Okay.
in open session.
Okay.
Do you have any further questions beyond that, Vice Deputy Mayor?
No, that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Grace and then Stack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jay, first of all, I want to say thank you, because it's obvious from this report that you must have done a lot of legwork to get this ready so quickly after the announcement about the grant. So thanks for that, for all that pre-thinking, I guess. I wanted to ask a question about the ARU toolkit. As you explain it, it sounds like a good idea. I guess what I'm thinking of with the Sears catalog is are the Sears home kits, right? My grandfather built one back in the mid-20s in Allenford. My great-grandfather, I should say. And it's still standing. So I guess that's the concept of what you were talking about. But I think that's a good idea. I mean, if we could have these plans. We know that the town likes that concept of that particular plan and has done a lot of thinking about how we could streamline that process. That's good. My question is, because as you know, I and I'm sure many others are concerned about trying to see how we can retain our small town character while still providing more housing. Um, do the parameters of this grant give us any more flexibility to incentivize or encourage those kinds of designs for people who are interested in using this toolkit? I mean, does it give us any more ability to operate outside the parameters of the site plan control legislation from the province?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I guess firstly, I was, certainly I don't want to overstate my, independence in preparing this. It's certainly a full team effort. Kristen, our planning policy coordinator, Mark and Kara as well. But, everyone in planning and development division has been working on this, this application and this fund. When it comes to the toolkit, certainly I think I don't want to take it for granted. I think this is our best opportunity to provide the small town feel, because these are designs that will be owned and prepared and owned by the town. We would be our best interest to have it designed in a way that is, can be approved by council. So setting aside the building code requirements, the types of finishes we would want to offer in the catalog, the shape of the roof, or whatever we would like, we could get to control that. And by reducing the costs and burden and hurdles people would encounter in having to do or on this on their own. We've already reduced building permits. I think we did that, reduced that building permit fee last year. We've opened up the zoning to make it, lawfully possible in town on almost every property. And by offering designs that are, say, essentially public domain, that's another element of the cost that, regular folk like us, wouldn't have to spend. And so I think it's our best opportunity to put forward a design that works for us.
Okay, so now I have Counselor Stack, then Davinsky, then Mayette.
Thank you. So just a couple of quick questions. I've had a couple of folks in the community ask about whether there'd be any opportunity to bring proposals forward on how to spend that money in local organizations. I know there are a few organizations that do some sort of second stage housing, like not the Women's House, but there are other organizations who just approach me out in the communities. Have we considered an opportunity for community-centered projects to be using these funds to the point of some of the other councilors to actually invest in bricks and mortar housing, whether it's affordable second stage, something to address the changing housing needs of the community?
Well, I don't recall the sort of second stage or later stage housing as opportune ways of spending the money. That's not to say that it couldn't be. I don't know. I just don't have an answer. The application that council approved highlighted 9 initiatives, and and we just reformatted that original application to make our second application last fall. And so, unless there's a huge desire by council to change course, I don't really have other than saying, certainly when we bring forward the business plan in 2024, 2026, there'll be an opportunity to influence the projects that go there. But in the meantime, explore with CMHC about how else the money, it's really, if I can, indulge another couple of diversion here on how the fund is actually, is calculated. It's not like I, find the price of a road and I just say that's the cost of the road and I get the money. It's a weird metric where you say, how many houses do you think you build in the town? How many do you think you project to build in the future? And then based on that change, they give you a certain amount of money. And so it's not really based on the cost of any of your projects. So of course you could, all of this is consulting fees. It's very low cost relative to the money we get. So I don't want to, I guess I'm just trying to explain that there's opportunity to figure out how to spend it. I guess I don't know the process, and I'll leave it to the business plan and get an answer before the fall, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I think the money's great. I think what you're hearing is just some desire to maybe reemphasize that there's a lot of interest in building housing that works for everybody. And I think, some of the commentary I've made in the past, I think ARUs are great. I'd like us to see how those are contributing to affordability in the community and making sure that it's not just used. I mean, look, all housing is great, but I think we just want to be ensuring that the policies we're putting in place actually support the folks who need it the most. And I think I also want to flag that, housing insecurity and being unhoused is an increasingly visible problem in the community. So I think as we move forward with this grant money, I think the commentary around where it's going has been made, but I just want to emphasize that I think we need to focus a bit as well on dealing with the unhoused in the community, and that issue seems to be growing. And I think as a community, we need to be, there's a lot of money now on the table. Let's ensure that we're focusing not just on the tools to make certain housing more affordable, but building housing for people who don't have any. I think, to me, that's where I think we need to be focusing our attention. Thanks.
Thank you. And if I could just offer a response on the groups that are approaching you. If at any time a group like that approaches you, certainly encourage them to come to council and ask them to speak to us, because I know council's keen on considering all comers on that. So that's just a note to have them come and speak to us.
Yeah,
Councillor Sack.
I will do that. It's one group in particular grabs me at the gym quite often, so I promised I would make the point, so I've done that.
Yep. Very good. Okay, so I've got Davinsky next, and then Councillor Mayette, and then we'll come back to Councillor Helpin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Jay, thank you for this report. And I echo the words of Councillor Grace. There is a lot of work that's gone into this. If we go to number 2, Affordable Housing Community Improvement Program, I have a question there. The line says this project will also include an Ontario First. Exploration and potential implementation of tax increment financing. Oh yeah, tax increment financing to support affordable housing projects under the Tax Increment Financing Act. And it is there that I asked you the question, could that potentially cost us money, the town cost us money as we try to develop affordable housing here under this program?
Well, yeah, certainly the most direct answer I can provide is that, like any financing tool, it would have a cost to the town. And so the point of this request is that we're going to explore what it is, how to implement it, and then offer it to council as an opportunity to, for example, the most successful places that have used this in the United States, Western Canada, even as far back as the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California, believe it or not, had programs for tax increment financing. But the idea is take a property that would not have developed, but for the opportunities that tax increment financing can offer. And so we want to be able to see what those triggers, economic, financial triggers that make properties, say, sit vacant forever or underdeveloped, and use the tools that are at our disposal, including tax increment financing, because it's not been implemented. And I guess the long-winded way of saying, yes, that has a cost to the town. In the case of tax increment financing, it's deferring the taxes that are collected. But if you were never going to have a development of property, maybe you weren't going to get the taxes anyway. So this is the exploration we want to take. So
sure. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. One more question, Mr. Mayor. As we go down to additional residential units and the tiny homes, you've used that phrase. In this, I asked you, does this mean ARUs only attached or near established housing? Or could this include a step forward to a neighborhood of tiny homes in some locations, which has come up at council before, but really hasn't been dealt with in detail?
well, I mean, the construction of any building would still have to comply with the town's zoning bylaws. So the ARUs, we're just offering the design. If someone chooses to build it with, an existing single attached dwelling, that's great. That's what it's one of the purposes. If they choose a design that creates, say it's a basement apartment, that's great. Put it in the bottom of their house. If they choose a design that's sort of standalone and they, you know, it's 1 or 2 bedroom and they find a property, they could rezone for multiple buildings on the same property and boom, you've got a tiny house community, I suppose. I think I just wanted to stress that it's just a catalog. It's still implemented through zoning, and so it has that opportunity, I guess, is the short answer.
Okay, thank you. You didn't mention Sears, but I'll take the catalog.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I got Councilor Mayette next, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks, Jay, and congratulations to you and Mark and the rest of the team for putting this all together in such short order. I think it was mentioned before. So my question is, I have 2 questions. First one is, with regards to at least the first 4 items on the list, maybe even the first 5, I'm presuming that you're not going to be hiring additional staff, so this will be conducted by consultants. And I think you maybe slipped part of the answer in already earlier, but so this will be consultants that are going to do this work primarily.
Yeah, we'll be getting consultant support as needed, and that's why the grant is there to be able to support the work that we want to do. We don't have the resources internally to do it, so this is how we're going to spend it.
And just the second part to that question, presumably there are consulting firms out there that are sufficiently familiar with our community and sufficiently underutilized that we'll be able to engage them in relative short order to do this?
But certainly in relative short order, we're already speaking on 2
Okay.
RFPs immediately. You know, I don't want to be too braggadocious, but there aren't many in Ontario that have done any of this work. So we're going to be trying to find firms that have the capacity and willingness to try stuff, to be exploratory, but also to be able to take direction as opposed to just doing their thing. You know, we want them to be collaborative in that way. So.
Right, it's nice to be cutting edge, isn't it? And the second part is just with the grant in general, a lot of times when you get these grants, there's certain timelines you have to spend the money within. Does this one have such a parameter on it?
Yes, and there's 8 initiatives we've proposed again. Some of them are in year 2, but these 5 have to be done in 2025.
I see, okay, good. Busy year ahead. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I might just, since everyone has spoken, I'll just take this moment to give my own comments on the housing accelerator piece of this. So I just want to address the comments about bricks and mortar versus bureaucracy, I guess, for lack of a better word. And, you know, I really think that, you know, we hear a lot. We hear from politicians at other levels of government in particular that municipal regulation is a big part of the reason why we can't build housing. And we hear it from both the government and the leader of the opposition federally. We certainly hear it from the Ontario government lots. And so we look seriously at that and say, well, what are the things about our bureaucracy, our organization that are creating restrictions? That's what Jay has done here and his team. And they found some things that we can improve. Some big things, frankly, some pretty innovative things that we can make improvements to. And so the point is to remove bureaucracy, streamline the process, make it much easier to build housing. And by doing that, there will be bricks and mortar. And we've already seen the impact of that. In the last 2 years, we have constructed in the town of Saugeen Shores 600 rental units in the town of Saugeen Shores. In the year 2022, CMHC said there were 600 units in the town of Saugeen Shores at that time. In other words, according to the CMHC, we have in the last 2 years doubled the number of rental units in the town. Why did that happen? These were tough years. These were not good years to build things. Why? Well, we have good developers, but we also had policies at the municipality that made it easier. We had targeted development charge forgiveness, targeted at the development of those specific types of development. We've had lots of policies working with our development community to get that done. This is that on steroids, $3.2 million targeted specifically at removing even more barriers and juicing that construction process, that work even more in our community. And if it works, you're going to see bricks and mortar. We've seen bricks and mortar in the last 2 years, and we're going to see even more bricks and mortar. And then the question people will ask is, well, you can build all this brick and mortar, and how will you make it affordable? 2 ways. One way, the housing subsidy. 40 families are now living in those 600 homes with a $500 subsidy from the municipality. in addition to all the other rental subsidies that exist out there and other assistance. But even more than that, we know the housing crisis is a supply crisis. The more supply you create, the more you offset demand, the more you reduce prices. We have to build. If we want to get true affordability for the people in this community, we need to build. And so we are going to move the bureaucracy out of the way so we can build. And that's what this does. So I think that's exactly what we want to do. We could spend all $3.9 million on one building and build 10 units, right? Or 3.2 million. The 3.2 probably would barely build 10 units, right? We know that one of these new buildings here, 40 units, is coming in at what, 12 million or something. So, you can just do the math. It's, you're going to get 15 units or something for 3.2 million. Or we could take 3.2 million, revolutionize our planning processes, and build hundreds more affordable units and attainable units across the municipality. So as you can tell, I happen to think this is the right way to go and the right way to spend $3.2 million to start getting at to be serious about getting at this problem. So that's right. Anyway, it's nice to hear agreement. It's nice. Hey Siri, everybody's phones light up. Oh, mine did right there. Damn it, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, anyway, sorry about that. Now, those are my comments anyway, for whatever they're worth, and we'll come back. I had Councillor Halpin first and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I see your point. You did well at explaining it, but I would like to see this money used, especially if we can, towards partnerships with other groups like that, okay, that we can have some bricks and mortar effect that way. When it comes to the tiny houses and the ARUs and stuff like that, I was explaining to someone about the different type of housing stock that we need. Like, there's no silver bullet that we just need this and it will make everything better. We need a wide variety. We have plenty of single family. That's the only variety that we really don't need more of. But I told that person to think of their life, how they went through their life. For me, when I was a young apprentice carpenter, I just needed a small bachelor apartment and that suited me just fine. When later I shared a 2-bedroom apartment, my wife and I, our first place was an apartment. Our next was a very small house. We went up to a large house and soon we'll be looking for a small house again. But I think that the value of the tiny homes and the ARUs and that community permanent planning system can help with this is getting a variety of housing stock, because that's what we need to meet the demand, is a variety. And I know I've heard from so many former students that say, yeah, I listened, I got an apprenticeship, I'm working, I can't afford any place to live. I can't find any place to live. And that's where those apartments above garages and tiny homes and stuff, that's a good place for those things, good fit for those. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And just as a comment through you, we're going to expect now clever turns of phrases in reports and that you're braggadocious every now and again. I did want to, and I apologize for thinking it was 3.8 or 9 million. That would have been nice. 3.2 is good though still. It's not part of this report, but there was an announcement today, I think it was on the town's social media, about another grant that is related to housing too. And it's not bricks and mortar per se, but it's the funding will help with some road construction through an area, which will enable some housing there too. So there's a number of different irons in the fire that really appreciate what you're trying to do to advance our case with other levels of government. I did want to go on to the other aspect now, which was the community group support. It's kind of the last line of your report. And it was very specific about working with 3 organizations, the Pumpkin Fest Group, who I hear have a new president, the Sparks organization in Southampton Arts, to help them create a future for themselves that the town has the potential to be involved with in some way, but it's providing a little bit of support there. I think that that's a great step forward or path forward for those 3 specific institutions. when we have success with that, I hope that what comes out of that is a bit of a format or a bit of a guideline kind of piece that that same assistance or that same encouragement or enthusiasm can be applied to other organizations that receive in different ways annual funding from the town. I think of the rail trail, the airport, so that, you know, they can all sort of fit into the same category, that we can see when they are getting some support from the town, that there's something there that shows an awareness for the longer term sustainability of those organizations, with in some cases some support from the town over a long period of time, but in other cases, maybe just a support for a very limited period of time. So I just wanted to not let that get missed, because the housing stuff is really exciting to talk about. But I think that those three organizations in particular will benefit from whatever assistance your department is going to, your division is going to provide to them. But I hope it leads to a blueprint that may be applicable to some other situations where there's regular requests or annual allocations of funds, taxpayer funds, to community groups. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I didn't
Do you have a
want to
comment?
add, I was just going to say, as I get excited about permit systems, I think Kara gets excited about standardization. So it'll be a very timely comment. Thank you.
Boy, you guys are easily excitable. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just really quickly, I also want to acknowledge the fact that of the organization, the legwork done by Jill and her team in setting up the advocacy meetings, the fact that we invested in a company like Wellington DuPont, our grant writing folks who made these grants possible. And that was a lot of work and organization and time that went into that. So that deserves to be recognized as well. And I'm also very supportive of the work that the deputy mayor mentioned with the organization, the folks like Pumpkin Fest, et cetera, the training center. That's money well spent, time well spent for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions or comments on this item? If not, oh, the deputy mayor.
Just one more. I appreciate what you, Mr. Mayor, said about the longer term goal with increasing the value and the quantity of the stock. I do think it's important, though, for all of us to remember, and for the community to hear, that we still care about, it's not just about the volume that's getting built. We still care about how the community functions and the look and feel to a certain extent, and the fact that, you know, we have a community here that we're quite proud of. So we're not throwing out, you know, everything just to have more built and streamline processes. We still care about design. We still care about aesthetics. We still care about green space. We still care about all of these things, because those are what make this community one of the best in the country. And so they go hand in hand. And I appreciate, Jay, that, you know, you've got some other things in the toolkit that kind of bring in some of those elements too, so that when somebody wants to do something, yeah, we can, you know, streamline some processes and make it a little easier, and hopefully maybe have some funding assistance there in some way that will help them. But we still care about what they're building. And I would like to think that people interested in doing things here want to help us with that aspect too. So just wanted to add that in, which goes back to what Councillor Gray said about, you know, the community vibe or feel that we're after. Thank you.
Sure, I think it's, and that's right. And I think what sometimes happens, because people, for good reasons, don't spend all their time thinking about what we're doing here. You know, you'll hear this report, it'll be out in the news, and people will be focused on this particular set of issues without thinking about the broad reach, you know, like we have intensification guidelines, and we have, you know, we've developed all sorts of things to protect just what you're saying, right, in concert with this. All of these things considered, you know, there's a huge amount of work and an awful lot of underlying policy that makes sure we keep all those things in balance. So, I think it's just, and the other thing too is this isn't the only housing work we're doing, right? Like there are other irons in the fire on housing. I think this 2025 is going to be a big year on housing, and there's going to be some great announcements in 2025 on housing beyond what's in this report. So I think no one should get too focused on any one thing, thinking that's all we're doing just because that's what's in the news today. It's just, this is the issue before us today. But as we saw in the business plan, there's an awful lot of work going on and reaching out in all directions. So, and we thank you for that work, Jay and your Mark and everybody in your department. You guys do great work, and delivering funding projects like this and advancing policy like this is critical stuff. So thanks for your work. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, so it's now 8:05 and we're going to head into the consent agenda. I had one more. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologies. So we'll do this one and then we'll take a break after that. So the 9.4, the establishment and naming of a road in the Innovation Park and a manager development services.
Well, yes, certainly it's just another step on our path to getting a full service, fully operational innovation park to provide opportunities for more than just the one expressive interest provided. And this is to establish it as a road. Certainly it's not the traditional way a road is built. Certainly they're done by plan of subdivision. Well, this is created by the town, and because of that, we have to establish a road. That's what this is. But the part of doing that is also naming it, and we're proposing Innovation Way. So I'll just leave my report there.
Thank you. So there is a recommendation or a resolution that council adopt bylaw 14/2025, a bylaw to establish part 21 on plan 3R10829 as a public highway known as Innovation Way. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Vinsky, seconded by Councillor Mayette. Questions or comments from members? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Jay, it's a great name. I'm glad to hear that we're at that stage where we can make it a public highway rather than just the very popular off-leash dog park that it's become over the past few months. I drive by there every day. I see that place all the time, and so I'm quite familiar with it. Just a question that they dropped off a whole pile of wooden hydro poles at the entrance. I was understanding that we had underground services to those lots. Are those poles for there, or are they for something else?
I think they're there. Our contract with Hydro, Rahul, are you able to help answer?
The manager of engineering services. You want to come up and you can answer that one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Mayat. So we'll have street lighting. We have street lighting, and I'm not sure about the cable, how it will run. I will get back to you when I get the detail, okay? Yeah.
They're wooden poles. They look like you'd see for distribution lines. They're not, street lights. I imagine something shorter and maybe fiberglass or concrete, something more aesthetic, but if that's what they are, then that's what they are. But they look like quite large Douglas fir type hydro poles.
Yeah, the complete system actually designed by Hydro.
Oh.
So we just contracted out this to Hydro. So I will check with them and I will get back to you.
Well, it makes sense. Hydro knows poles and they like their wooden poles. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, are there further questions? The Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I had, is it lighting with the poles? So thanks for asking that question, because I was thinking that they should be a little different looking too if they're for streetlights. So look forward to whatever you provide to us, Rahul. Jay, is this the first way in Saugeen Shores?
I think it is.
There you
We've got
go.
a walk.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there we go. No way. We're gonna do that.
Is this road, when it's opened, can we just get, as you drive by, it looks narrow. Can you just give us some size dimensions for the road?
I'd have to look and get back to you. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know offhand, so.
Thanks.
Are there further questions about the resolution? If not, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, so now we will take why don't we take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 20 after 8. Okay, everybody, we're going to bring this thing back to order now, please. We're going to move on now to the consent agenda, and which is item 10. And so as always, ask any member if you wish to have any of the consent items considered separately from the consent agenda. Councillor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to ask the manager of engineering a couple of questions for 10.2. And I would like to speak to number 7 in the communications.
Okay. So that 10.2 and 10.3 separate, so we may as well just consider them all separately, which is what we will do. Okay, so we'll move on to considering each of the three items on their own. And so the first one then is on the council governance framework. The resolution is that council received the council governance framework report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Grace and seconded by the deputy mayor. Any questions about that one? The deputy mayor?
Thank you. And through you, I'm looking forward to how this process plays out. There are a lot of questions there that I think there's a plan to get some kind of survey instrument out to us. The report indicates that there's no cost for this. However, is Civic Engagement a consulting firm? Like, wouldn't there be a cost for them?
The CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I actually got the name wrong. It's Civic Excellence, and this was the firm that we hired to do the CAO performance review. So this survey is included in that retainer, so there's no additional cost.
Well, that's good. So Civic Excellence, okay. And again, I look forward to where we go with this. And I do hope that when the survey situation happens, that every member of council participates. Because I think it's a very good tool to see where we end up with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments on 10.1? Councillor Stack?
Thank you. Just related to governance, I wonder, I know that sometimes the public will have questions from time to time about how we decide what gets put into closed. I was just wondering if the clerk could quickly summarize for the public how we decide what items go into closed session.
Sure, the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So fortunately, Councillor Stack asked this question in advance. So I was able to prepare a little bit. So please, nobody think this is right off the top of my head. So going into closed is a recommendation based on the subject matter of the reports for council consideration and discussion. The Municipal Act states that all meetings are to be open to the public, but also provides for exceptions when a meeting may be closed to the public. There are 14 reasons why a closed meeting may be held. When making these recommendations, staff review if the subject matter should be discussed in closed and if it meets one or more of the exceptions. Typically, the clerk interprets the act in this regard and will discuss it with the report author and the CAO. If it does not meet the exceptions or there is no reason why it can't be discussed in public, it won't be added to a closed meeting agenda. However, closed meeting provisions exist to meet a specific purpose and should be used when appropriate. Ultimately, it is the resolution to move into closed that decides to have a closed meeting. The discussion that would take place in a closed meeting must be kept to the subject matter of the report and the scope of why the meeting is closed. Members of council and staff are required to keep the contents and discussion of a closed to public meeting confidential. But through the course of conducting town business, the matter often is disclosed to the public through a subsequent report, media release, or other means that is open to the public. This is sometimes done the same night under business arising from close to public session, or several months down the road through the natural course of business. Staff have a confidentiality clause as a requirement of their employment, which includes the confidentiality of closed meetings. For council, it is a specific requirement of the Code of Conduct that they may not disclose the contents or discussion from a closed meeting. A member cannot unilaterally, I got the word right, decide to disclose the contents or discussion of a closed meeting. If a breach occurs, a request to investigate may be submitted to the Integrity Commissioner and may result in a report and possible reprimand. With regards to closed meetings, it's throughout the course of business that a report may come up that would require us to go into closed. And it is through the municipal act that permits us to do that. The town used to do it through the procedural bylaw, which is permissible and fine. However, the new procedural bylaw is strictly through the municipal act.
Okay. Further questions about this report? Seeing none, then I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. All right, now 10.2, which is the Active Transportation Fund Grant applications. And there's a resolution the council received the Active Transportation Fund Grant application report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Stack and Councillor Grace. Councillor Grace had some questions, so we'll go to her first. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the Manager of Engineering. Rahul, the first question is about the proposal for the Bruce Street and Victoria Street bike lanes project. I'm wondering if the way we proceed with this is affected by the pending provincial legislation, which would require provincial approval for bike lane construction, even in municipalities.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor, for this question. The Bill 212, that's actually the legislative thing that you are mentioning. So it's a provincial legislation, and this grant actually is from federal government. Having said that, we actually applied for the grant for 226 and onward. So we have some time. If we receive grant, then we'll review. And if we need the approval from province, then we can pursue for the approval. Actually, for 2025, we are also doing one block of Victoria with bike lanes. So we'll have that process, and we'll already experience before this grant funded project, if we receive the grant. So we'll review whether we need the approval from province or not. If we need, then we have time to submit the approval application.
Have you received any information about how long that approval process may take? Because I understand from the information that was on our previous agenda that municipalities are required to prove to the province that any new bike lane construction would not interfere with or be an impediment to traffic flow or something like that.
We are not taking away any capacity from the existing road. We are actually only widening and adding either shared or dedicated bike lanes without impacting the existing capacity. So I think it will not take long to get the approval, since we are not taking away any capacity or we are reducing any capacity on the existing configuration. Since it's the bill actually got the what they call the assent or something in last November. So we are not sure how long it will take. We hope that it will take short and we'll get the approval within our time frame.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. I have one more question, and that's about the 4-year sidewalk plan. I noted that Island Street from Huron to Harmer is included in that for 2028. I also assumed that this would be subject to the Cottage Streets policy, because it is, and part of that block is where a lot of people, there's a big parking, sort of a parking area along the side there where a lot of people from the, I think Trailer Park 2, park their cars off the road. So is that Was that thought of when you were including that on this list?
Yeah, thank you again, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is identified as a cottage street. At the same time, in our transportation master plan, this section also identified as kind of need for sidewalk. So there is a flexibility. We will follow the cottage street standard. This section actually planned for 2028. So we have some time for the public consultation. And if we need to change, I think we have that flexibility. We can change it.
Okay, I had the Vice Deputy Mayor written down next, but I see he took his hands down. Do you still have a question, Vice Deputy Mayor? Vice Deputy Mayor then.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the rural, I'm just wondering, in your report, the transportation report, read with interest that if you're successful with the grant application, and let's hope you are, that the $1.1 million our share, you'd be able to find through your yearly asphalt program and also with savings from other capital projects. Is that how we would find those revenues if we were successful with the grant application?
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, for Bruce Street and Victoria Street, we will cover the municipal portion of the grant, which is 40% from our existing annual asphalt resurfacing program.
Thought I read that. And could you sometime, Will, just via email or maybe I don't think you'd have this information at your fingertips this evening, but the sidewalk program you're talking about, I see here from Beener to Crawford, Crawford to Johnson, Johnson to Buckby Lane, which is great. And would they be like is it like a 1 meter, 1.5 meter trail on both sides of the road? Is that what that would equate to with our trail construction, making the asphalt wider? How wide would those bike lanes be? They have to be the standard. What is the standard?
The conventional, or with some flexibility, it should be at least 1.2 meter.
Right.
We can go down to 1 meter if we have a tight room there. Yeah.
Okay. And it's the objective, and if you give this to us in an email, I'd be interested to know, with those sections that we're talking about, Beener, Crawford, Johnson, Buckby, what percentage of bike lanes does that make up? I assume that the end goal here is to bike lanes from County Road 25, CAW Road, right through to 10th Concession. That's our north-south corridor for bike lane. I'm assuming that's what we're attempting to do here. If we were successful with this grant application, Will, what percentage, and you won't have this tonight probably, but if we were successful, would we be constructing 20% of our road system for bike lanes, 30%, 40%? I'm talking about Bruce Street. What percentage of Bruce Street would now have bike lanes if we were successful with this grant application? Could you get that number for us? Is it 25%, 50%? Just curious how far that $1.1 million goes, you know?
So if we receive the grant, this funding will be applying to widening the road. And that construction will include also the base, sub-base, and asphalt.
Right.
So it will be, and then the asphalt on the entire surface area.
Right.
So it will be a new kind of new, almost near to new road. And
Right.
then we will have bike lanes on both sides.
Right. And Merle, I'm just wondering if you could though, I'm just curious, if we were successful with funding and we did those 3 sections, how much of Bruce Street now would have bike lanes? Would it be I'm talking about from County Road 25 to Concession 10? Is it 20%, 30%? How much of the area of Bruce Street would now have bike lanes? If you could get that to us, I'm just curious to what that would be.
Actually, it will be the entire section of Bruce Road, except the south end and the north end that it's not constructed yet. Because
okay.
at the north end, we already have enough width to implement bike lanes. And this funding will be using to implement the bike lanes for the rest of the length. So it will be the entire Bruce Street. We will have the bike lane. Or we can implement the bike lane.
Fine, thanks, Farrell.
Okay, so I got the deputy mayor and then Counselor Halpin.
Thank you. And just as an additional comment from what Councillor Gray said about Victoria Street, you mentioned about there's a 1 block section in the plan for this year. The work that's already happened on Victoria Street, was it constructed to include the extra width?
Through
The
you,
part
Mr.
that's
Mayor?
already done?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, though, in the report, there's one opportunity, if the grant comes through, and it relates to the rail trail and some improvements at the, nice smile. It relates to some improvements, and it's $100,000. I just wanted to ask what, and it appears from the way that I read it, it's making the approaches to the highway from both directions of the rail trail safer and that kind of thing. $100,000 is a significant amount of money. What would we get for that? And the reason why I ask is that I do recall, and of course it all relates to, it's in the Ministry of Transportation has something to say about the highway. So, you know, there's all kinds of other considerations with doing anything there. But when we were talking about the intersection at Railway and McNabb in Southampton, and we talked about the potential for a signalized pedestrian activated crosswalk there. I seem to recall the price tag on that was about $150,000, give or take a little bit. So $100,000, you know, without getting an actual sort of crossing situation, what do you get for $100,000 that would improve the rail trail crossing at Highway 21?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for this question. I think if you can remember the ask from the Saugeen Rail Trail Association to make the connection with Highway 21 safe for everyone. So the plan for this grant, we will actually will improve the grade and will make it standard. Like the standard grade is 8% or even better for any transition. So we will do some gravel or granular work, then we will asphalt on both sides, at least 60 meters on either side. So that it will cost us around 60,000. And then we also allocated around 20,000 for any sign or signage improvement and 20,000 for consulting work, because we have to submit all of this drawing and design to MTO, and we don't have that capacity. Like they need very professional and signed by a consultant. So that's how the estimated actually came to 100K. 60,000 for both side approach work, 20,000 for sign and signal, not signal, sign and signage improvement, and 20,000 for consulting work to work with the MTO to just get the approval.
So I just want to clarify or confirm what you said. You said that the surface treatment asphalt would be 60 meters back in both directions?
Yeah, just for the transition and just make the grade smooth. So on both sides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, my computer screen just froze, a member of the public asked me, how come it's going to be so much money for these bike lanes and that you can't just, it costs that much to paint lines? But with some of these bike lanes, it's not just a matter of painting lines. Is that correct?
Yes, we have to widen the road to accommodate the bike lane. Otherwise, we have to take away the driving lane.
Right, right. So, okay, thank you. So it's not just a simple matter of painting a few lines and while we have a bike lane. So we're doing some actual road work, making the asphalt wider. And then I'm to understand that some of the roads that are already done were designed wide enough that in those ones, we only have to paint the lines.
Exactly, yes, you are correct.
Good planning on your department. Thank you for your work. And I think that this is a great thing to have those. It's a great idea. Parents say, kids ride your bike to work and stuff like that. The way you see cars rip down Bruce Street sometimes, I'm not sure how I would feel about a small kid on a bicycle riding down the road there. So I'm glad that we're getting these bike lanes. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? I think it's one thing this report demonstrates is the value of 10-year capital planning, because it really enables us then to know exactly what projects we can build, what the financing we have to contribute to a thing like this is, and then put together an application, a solid application to the problems to say, this is how much funding we have. We can do 40%, and that equals $420,000. So you can kick in 600 or 1,000 with your 60, and we can now, instead of doing $420,000 worth of sidewalks, we can do $1 million worth of sidewalks, right? So like that's because you guys have built this plan. We now have the capacity to apply for this kind of funding and really leverage up the amount of sidewalk work and other kinds of work that we're able to do. So I think it's a great application and lots of good work will get done, but it's also just a sort of indicative of the value of that kind of planning that you're doing. The only comment I would make is around those bike lanes, and I agree with Councillor Halpin that the safety and the bike lanes is important, but I would note it's important, I think now, if we're going to make this application, and if we end up being successful, I think to do more work to socialize the fact that particularly like Victoria Street is one thing, it's a bit of a wider street. You had bike lanes, I think there'd be less property impact. But if you're going to widen Bruce Street, you're going to cut into some lawns on that street on both sides, and there's going to be a reaction to that. People may have been aware that in the transportation master plan that we had designated this as a bike route at the time, or they may not have been. My guess is if you went up and down Bruce Street, not many people would be aware of that. And certainly if they were aware of it, they wouldn't be aware that we needed to widen the road substantially to do it. So I would say it's probably a good idea to talk about this and get that fact out there and make people aware of it well in advance and talk about the benefits of it, because there will be, I think, probably plenty of property owners along the length of Bruce Street who may be less than happy about widening the road. And we want to work with them. I think it's a good thing. I think we want to do this work, but we want to work with them and reassure them and have good communications with them so that we can do the work and we don't get caught in some sort of fight that I'm sure will never make everybody happy, but anything we can do ahead of time to communicate well about it will help. So I just put that on your radar to think about. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And to what the mayor just said, I know that the transportation master plan is up for something this year. Will that be an opportunity for it is this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This is-
Will that be an opportunity for significant public consultation? Because related to just what we're hoping to do with the roads over time and, where there's opportunities for sidewalks and bike lanes. But I do think that, to the mayor's point, there's an awful lot of people who don't understand road allowances and don't understand that, even though it appears as though the road stops here, public land is still, in some cases, quite a ways back from the edge of the pavement or the edge of the sidewalk. When is the expectation for the transportation master plan to be a little more public awareness about it?
We just posted the RFP, so we haven't received the proposals yet. So it will come from the consultant, and we are actually expecting during the summertime we will have significant public consultations.
Okay, so if that's it, you've heard the recommendation. It's been moved and seconded, so I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. All right, so now we're on to 10.3, which is the communications, 7 items there. Councillor Grace wanted to speak to item 7, so we'll go to her first. Oh, your mic's not on there, Councillor Grace.
Thank you. So this item is related to a resolution that was written by Renfrew County and supported by one of the townships within that county. And it involves child welfare funding from the province. So this afternoon I called and spoke with Julie Lipsett, who's the executive director of Bruce Gray Child and Family Services, because I wanted to find out if they are experiencing the same kind of situation in terms of funding. I had a really good conversation with her. She said that they are one of, I think, about 11 of these organizations, of the 51 child and family service organizations throughout Ontario who are not in the red, that their funding has actually been increasing since 2020, although previous to that, for about a decade, they had their funding cut by $850,000 a year. So in 2020, the province instituted a new funding formula that takes into account factors like, you know, are you in a rural location, and the number of children under your care, poverty, you know, income levels, things like that, the number of Indigenous people in your care. Anyway, they have been increasing. However, she talked a lot about how all the challenges that they're still facing, and many of them are reflected in the letter from the warden and in this resolution. Just to give you an example, she said, since the pandemic, and she thinks that this is across the board in Ontario, children have been suffering with a large increase of mental health problems. Fentanyl has been an absolutely devastating, has had a very devastating effect. In their area alone, in Bruce Gray, one parent a month of their charges dies from fentanyl. And a number of children are also, you know, unfortunately, I mean, there was one death last year of a little toddler that got into it, I think. Poverty, homelessness, our rural location has a very negative effect on parents as well, because it's very challenging for them to get the kind of support that they need. And one of the things that is a problem, she said, is that the current provincial government divided children's care into several ministries. So children's mental health issues are now dealt with by the Minister of Health, and other issues are dealt with by the Community and Child Services Ministry. And that increases the amount of red tape that families experience when they're trying to get care and support. And the bottom line is, she said that we have had a number of children coming into our care because parents are just too overwhelmed. They can't manage wading through all this red tape. So the bottom line for me is that I would like to move that we support this resolution. It's not exactly the same as our situation, but there are enough similarities and parallels that I think since 2020, there's been an increase, a change in conditions, and I think it would be a good idea if the provincial government takes a look, reassesses, and that's what this resolution is asking for. Thank you.
So Councillor Grace moves support for the resolution from the County of Renfrew. Is there a seconder? Councillor Davinsky. Is there Further comments on the resolution, the Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I had a question here. What is available locally? So thank you for making the call today to get the research. I'd like to see us support this, but I'd also like to ask that we invite a delegation to come and share some information about the local situation. I appreciate what you just did because I was curious, what do people in our area have access to? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly we could extend that invitation to Child and Family Services. I would say too, there are a number of agencies working in this space, including Great Bruce Public Health, as well as the County of Bruce and some of the service delivery that it does through its Human Services Department and others. So there's quite a few different agencies that have an impact on child welfare within Bruce County. But Child and Family Services would be one to talk to. Councilor Grace?
Yeah, I was going to say, I do have the contact information for Ms. Lipset, but also I did ask her, what kind of support do you get from Grey Bruce Health Services? And she said a lot. They help our staff with training and training, particularly information about drug abuse and Narcan administration and things like that. So she praised their efforts.
Yeah, just to be clear, that support will come from, not from Great Bruce Health Services, but from Public Health, the Great Bruce Health Unit. But yes, they do a lot of work in that space for sure. Is there any other comments on this before I call the vote? If not, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Any other comments on the communications, the Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Halpin?
A couple. Number one on the list is from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, but it is about a review of Canada Post. I recall many years ago when Canada Post was doing a review, the municipality did respond in some way to say, we like our downtown post offices, we want them to stay. I would respectfully request that we find a way for the municipality to send something in basically suggesting that we very much value both of the physical bricks and mortar downtown post offices, and we don't want them to disappear. The one in Southampton, of course, is right there on the corner across from the Walker House, and it is very much a social place, and it also is an anchor downtown. Same thing with the site in Port Elgin. It's an in and out kind of place, but it's a regular meeting spot. It's a place of camaraderie at times, and I just think as Canada Post is looking at their services, that we should suggest from our community's perspective that we very much value those locations, those physical locations in our downtowns. I wouldn't want to see those disappear. I don't know. I don't think they're not asking for us to support something, but they're just suggesting that this review is going on and there's a format there. But I just think we should say we like having downtown post offices.
So for clarity, so this letter was sent to me and I asked for it to be placed on the agenda to receive just that kind of feedback, to see if council wanted to say anything about this or not. If there's no objection to what the Deputy Mayor is suggesting, then I can certainly draft a letter to the Minister outlining the municipality's support for the post offices, physical locations in both Southampton and Port Elgin. Are there any other comments anybody would like to make to Canada Post? Councillor Mayette?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to speak to this one as well, and I'm glad you brought it up, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, and just the talk that they have in their correspondence here talks about the expanded services that they could offer. I mean, there's a whole host of services that are done through Service Canada locations that could be done through the post office. I mean, there's efficiencies to be gained here, I think, and they touch on a few. They talk about charging stations and perhaps get into financial institution type work. And certainly that's applicable, as they go on to point out, in some remote communities that don't have access to banking services. So I think they touch on a whole bunch of things. So I support that if you could draft a letter supporting some of these initiatives and pointing out how important it is for the post office to be around. We all suffered in one way or another when the post office was on strike back in December, and We don't want to see that again. And I think I certainly, and I hope everybody supports our postal workers. They play an integral role in our society, and I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, the deputy mayor?
We don't need to vote on that.
I'm just going to take your comments as direction. I see consensus that a letter is appropriate. And I've heard your comments and we can draft something up. I'll draft it and
Okay.
I'll copy council on the letter once it's sent.
I did want to, number 4, I hope that Vice Deputy Mayor's still here. He seems to have disappeared from the screen.
Yes.
Mike, are you still here? The Bruce area Basra report about the operating budget. It's got a suggestion there that the cost per household is 30. Oh, you lost him?
We don't have them.
The cost per house, maybe someone else can answer. The cost per household to the municipalities is $39.49, $39.50 to round it up. What I couldn't see was how that compared to the previous year. So I was going to see if Mike had anything that saw it's gone up a little bit or down a little bit, or it stayed the same.
I could look at the manager of operations. Do you have any, did you hear that question? You didn't, I just wanted, it's just a question is about the Basra charge per household and how it's changed year over year. Have we seen an increase or a decrease or? Yeah. He missed his chance. We're going to hand it to Matt.
Thank you for the question through you, your worship. I did look at that aspect of the minutes myself and had the same question, but I did not have time to actually look at the history of I guess it's the per household cost.
We'll get the answer. Okay. Councilor Grace.
Well, I was just going to say that I remember Councillor Rich making a presentation on this back in 2017, 18, whatever, and the household cost was $27.63. I don't know why that sticks in my mind, but it does.
2763. Wow. That was a pretty good presentation from Councilor Rich. He must have been riveting. Councilor Halpin. Sorry, Councilor Halpin, I bypassed you. Councilor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. The motion from Halton Hills, Sovereignty of Canada. And, you know, I was just gonna kind of let this go, but last night on the news, the President of the United States was again saying that it's in our best interest for Canada to become the 51st state. And again, saying that Canadians would be happier because we'd have less taxes. And how often do you ignore a guy, you know? And I think that we should support this.
Moved by Councilor Halpin that council support the resolution from the town of Halton Hills on the sovereignty of Canada, seconded by Councilor Mayette. Any questions or comments on the resolution? I would note one thing, which is interesting, is that when you look at the list of who this was circulated to, it does not include the President of the United States, and it probably should. I didn't say it. I was looking. Maybe it is. It's circulation. Oh yeah, to the office of the President. Never mind. I skipped right over that. You're right. Well, that's good. It should go to the President of the United States for sure. But it's a good resolution. I think we all agree with that one. Councilor Halpin.
Yes, and I hope it goes to my American brother-in-laws.
Give us their addresses and we'll send it to whichever Americans you want to send it to. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a serious topic, but I noticed in this, one of the initial clauses, it talks about Halton Hills being known as Canada's most patriotic town. I was watching an interview on the CBC from a resident of Port Dover who proudly proclaimed that Port Dover is known as being Canada's most patriotic city or town or whatever. So anyway, I guess we just say, we don't make a fuss about that.
Yeah. We don't have to include that in the resolution. We can strike that other, put the town of Saugeen Shores in there instead. All right. Yep. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. You've heard the resolution. All in favor? That is carried. Anything else on the correspondence, the Deputy Mayor?
There's one item there. It's number 3. It's about the NII, the Nuclear Innovation Institute. It's nice to be back in our own digs. Certainly, it references the relationship between the NII and the town of Saugeen Shores. I just wanted to comment that they mentioned about, what are they called here? The NII Connects presentations. I know that Councillor Davinsky has been at a couple I've been at, and I'm sure somebody else has too. It does say that they circulate to us, all that stuff. If you ever have a chance to go, they get some good speakers in there. And the ones I've gone to, it's been RBC financial people from Toronto. It's been somebody associated with engineering. They're just really good talks. So just good partnership. And I'm sure they're glad that we're not there anymore. But it was good to have that access. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good note. I had intended to say something at our last meeting because I knew it would be our last meeting, but we ended up not going. We ended up doing that one from home, but should note our thanks to the Nuclear Innovation Institute for their partnership and friendship and for allowing us for those several months to have all of our meetings in their facility. It was certainly generated a lot of value for us out of that partnership, and it was good of them to accommodate us. So just express our gratitude again for that. Anything else on the correspondence? If nothing else, then I'll just ask for mover and seconder that all of that correspondence be received for information. Councillor Grace, Councillor Stack, all in favor? That is carried. All right, so now we have a closed to public session, and it's recommended the council move into a closed to public session to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal employees and employee negotiations relative to the reorganization of the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer based on recommendations from the CAO performance review, and to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals in relation to committee appointments for the Accessibility Advisory Committee. So the resolution is the council move into a closed to public session in accordance with Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Council will now move into closed session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I had some technical difficulties here where I'm staying, and if staff could send me the closed link again, please, to my town iPad, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. We're on it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now arise and resume the regular council meeting, and there's a resolution that council arise from close to public session and resume the regular council meeting. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, second by the Vice Deputy Mayor. All in favor? We are now back in open session, and I will report that during the close to public session, council approved close to public minutes, discussed personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal employees and employee negotiations relative to the reorganization of the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer based on recommendations from the Chief Administrative Officer Performance Review, and discussed personal matters about identifiable individuals in relation to committee appointments for the Accessibility Advisory Committee. For item 12.3.2, Striking Committee, Accessibility Advisory Committee appointments, council provided direction to arise from close to public session with a recommendation to appoint Accessibility Advisory Committee members as recommended by the Striking Committee. And those members are as follows: public members, Jennifer Cowan, Patricia Kelly, and Ian Moncrief, and council members, the Deputy Mayor, Diane Huber, Chair, and Councillor Cheryl Grace, Council Alternate. So the recommendation is that council appoint Accessibility Advisory Committee members as recommended by the Striking Committee. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by the Vice Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Okay, so now we're on to bylaws. Two bylaws there for consideration. Anybody wish to have them considered separately? See any request for that? So the resolution is that bylaws 13/2025 and 14/2025 are hereby read, passed, and sealed this 10th day of February 2025. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments to the bylaws? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried and fine, well, not quite finally. Then there's a confirmatory bylaw. The resolution is that bylaw 15/2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read, passed, and sealed this 10th day of February 2025. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Halpin, seconded by Councillor Grace. All in favor? That is carried. And now, finally, the resolution is that this regular council meeting of February 10, 2025 hereby adjourns at 9:27 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Councillor Stack, Councillor Davinsky, all in favor. Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.